On this Veterans Day, Mr. President, I would especially like to single out a great veteran who has also served with honor and respect in this body, Senator Johnny Isakson.
Johnny Isakson is the chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, and a happy Veterans Day. You're also a veteran, so thank you for your service. What was that service precisely?
Georgia Air National Guard, 1966 to 1972.
And I'd like for every member of VSO or the VSO representatives in the audience to please stand. The Veterans of Foreign Wars. Okay. I want you all to understand something. You're the reason we're here. We're not the reason you're here. You're the reason we're here, to make sure we get the VA working as well as we can, as efficient as we can, and we thank you for your service to the country.
Politics is a business where a lot of talking is done. To walk the talk, to have actions back up what you are saying is truly exemplary. And you're not around Senator Isakson for very long before you come to the conclusion this gentleman is indeed the real deal.
He has been the best damn advocate for veterans in this country that they could ever ask for.
It's not about him, it's about a result that's good for veterans.
He has a bond with people who are willing to give their lives, the last full measure of devotion for their country. He believes that he has a responsibility to ensure that they get everything they deserve, and they deserve so much. So he has been one of their key champions.
Johnny Isakson was almost taken from another era, out of the pages of a history book, in terms of his sense of the importance of what we do to the United States.
A lot of times, you know you got a problem, and you can talk about the problem all day long, but that's all you do. You'd never do anything. So we decided we'd set out at the outset to really try and perfect the VA legislation that had passed over the years to get rid of some of the problems that we had. And we did it, and we made the whole committee a committee of the whole in doing it.
One would think veterans would pull us together, and they do, but there's still issues that are contentious, not always partisan, but just difference of opinion and different states, different geography.
He went from John Tester, who's a fairly conservative Democrat, to Bernie Sanders, who is not the most conservative Democrat out there. So he had a lot of work to do.
I chaired the Senate Armed Services Committee. He chaired the Veterans Committee. Very closely united. When one is up, the other's up, and one's down, the other's down. So we were going through a rebuilding that no one thought we'd ever have to do, and we did that together.
The most important thing to happen to the Veterans Administration was to have Johnny Isakson, a former chief executive himself, somebody who understood how to hire, how to manage, how to terminate when appropriate, and how to reform major institutions. He brought that intelligence from the private sector and his 40-year knowledge of how bureaucracies work and, more importantly, don't work. And you combine that with his ability to work on both sides of the aisle. But for Johnny Isakson, we would not have had the first in a generation reform of the Veterans Administration that we've had over the last couple of years.
I mean, there's no question that without him, there is no fundamental reform of VA. He saw what was happening in 2014 and 2015 and 2016. He knew that there had to be change from the bottom up. And he shepherded legislation that I've said was the most far-reaching legislation to hit this department since the GI Bill was signed by Franklin Roosevelt in June of 1944. His business acumen, combined with his knowledge of how to get things done in this environment, has been absolutely vital.
We have accomplished a lot under Johnny's chairmanship. From the Mission Act to the Forever GI Bill to the Appeals Modernization, and yes, to the Blue Water Navy Veterans Act. We had an incredible year last year, passing bills that everybody, when we take them up, they say, oh, you guys can't do that, it's too controversial. Those were not easy bills, and we could have given up at any moment in time on it. And if I'd have given up on it, or he'd have given up on it, it would have severely reduced the chances of getting those bills passed. But Johnny kept pushing forward, and Johnny kept letting me know that we weren't going to stop until we got this done.
If you leave people out who are affected by the decision, you're never going to solve the problem.
I also have to recognize some of the people that have worked so hard to make all of this happen. And Johnny Isakson, you're here. Where's Johnny? Boy, has Johnny been working?
Johnny Isakson does not care who gets the credit for what's getting done, and he doesn't want the credit. And he believes that because he's all about results. He's all about getting things done, and that's why he's been able to be so successful as a chairman.
You talk about a chairman, Johnny was the ultimate when it came to being a bipartisan chairman. He worked with people on both sides of the aisle. He wanted to hear the entire story. He was always fair to every single witness.
He lets everybody talk as long as they want to talk. He always has something kind to say about somebody. And he's always got an example of how he's worked with every single one of us on the committee.
For Johnny, it was a team effort. And that's the way I think Johnny works in every step of the way as a United States Senator.
There was one piece of legislation that had one no vote. Everything else ended up being unanimous. It has made a huge difference.
So I think when we look at Johnny's tenure at the Veterans Committee and for veterans, it's that he brought real solutions to problems that affected veterans day in and day out. And his legacy will be he leaves this institution having made a contribution to people he'll never have an opportunity to meet that were benefited by something Johnny Isakson did.
He guided more than 25 bills into law on behalf of those who've served our country.
He led a delegation to Normandy recently for the 75th anniversary, and it was just a fabulous trip to honor what our men and women, our soldiers did in World War II, storming the beaches at Normandy. And it epitomized Johnny's service, how much he cares about our veterans, how much he cares about our military, how much he cares about our country.
I think he'll be remembered, again, for serving our country. And on this committee, serving those veterans who served our country. And passing significant legislation which reformed, which advanced the mission of the VA.
On behalf of the thousands, and I do mean thousands, of constituents we have assisted here in Georgia, and those you have impacted across the country, thank you. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the more than 18 million veterans and their families this Veterans Day, we celebrate his leadership. Johnny Isakson, thank you for your service. Senators eventually come and go. I do not think we will see the likeness of Senator Johnny Isakson for years to come. Semper Fi, my friend. I love you. We love you.